Terrence, what are you referring to? You're typing something for me. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. David, are you streaming this one too?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. All right. Quick show of hands. How many people have heard me speak before? There's a lot of new names on here, which I'm excited about. Terrence, what did you send me? You gently scolded me last time. I know you know people. Oh,
He's messing around with us.
I know, and you got your mask on. I haven't had COVID for about 7 months, so you should be okay. All right, so let's talk.
He's protecting you from that computer virus that goes through.
That's right. You don't want to be getting that computer virus. You know, it blows me away when we talk about the explanation of services. I think one of the biggest responsibilities we have as professionals in the insurance industry is to be able to not only answer that question, but be looking forward to being asked that question. And I'll tell you why. When I meet someone for the first time, I want to start off by telling you I am the buyer in this relationship. I'm not the seller. I'm not selling anything. I'm going to find out if I like the person that I'm talking to. I do not want to get a 4 o'clock phone call on a Friday afternoon and look at my cell phone and go, oh crap, it's you. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the person I'm talking to believes as I do, wants what I want, is in the same financial concern that I am. So the first thing I do when I meet someone, and I look forward to having an opportunity to see if I want to work with them, that's first. Then I will show sincere, authentic curiosity into what they do. And I'm not going to ask the question, what do you do? Just simply waiting for the response so that they can ask me what I do. Don't do that. That we can see right through that. That will end up harming you if that is your intent. See, I'm the buyer here. I'm not selling anything. If my goal was to sell something, then yes, I would want to tee it up so that I would be asked, what do you do? And then pounce on them like flies on dung. It's not what I want to do. I want to go slowly, methodically. I want to explore what they do. Most important, why they do what they do, how they pick that career choice, what excites them about. I want to know a lot about them. Now, naturally, when I start that conversation in that fashion, it should come back to me like, well, Tom, wow, thank you for showing all this concern. What is it that you do? At that moment, I own the rest of the conversation. I know exactly what I'm going to say. I'm going to know how I say it. I'm going to know why I say it. I'm going to know what the end result is. They don't have a clue yet, but I own the rest of the conversation. Now, when I talk to somebody and it doesn't get around, I show sincere, authentic compassion. What do you do? Why do you do this? This is fascinating. You train orcas at SeaWorld. Wonderful. How did you get that job? And all if they want to do is this, and they don't show any interest in what I do, I'm done with them. I'm done with them. I know what that looks like 3 years from now. I know how the relationship is going to be 3 years from now. I'll tell you right now, it ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. As a matter of fact, it's quite ugly. And when we look at what we do, thinking that I want to be attractive to people, all we do is just dump on them. Stop it. Stop it. Stop selling. The day you can efficiently learn to stop selling, you'll end up selling more. Now, when someone asks me, what do I do for a living? I'm not going to look at their watch. I'm not going to look at their shoes. And I'm not going to look at potentially the car they drove in on, while most of us will. And then we're going to size them up, if you will, and then change our conversation. You know, it was interesting. When I was speaking at the Canada Sales Congress in September, the the thing that stuck out to me, all of the presenters were top of the table presenters. Everyone had a great conversation. They were specialists in what it is that they do. And all of them followed a process, all of them. And the key is to not modify who you are to chase someone you don't know. When I started years ago, I was taught to determine if you were amiable, analytic, expressive, or driver. And listen to this crap. I was to change who I was so I could appease someone I don't know. So I could become attractive to someone I don't even like. See, I don't want to take a phone call at 4 o'clock on a Friday from some arrogant, you know what, because he or she wants me to go back to the office and do something for them because I made the mistake of saying once, I'll bend over backwards. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your business. Stop it. Stop discounting who and what you are. You know what? My father taught me a lesson a long time ago. I'm free, but you have to buy the product to get me. And since I'm the buyer here, and if I don't like you, you don't own me. You don't ask me. You can't ask me to do anything for you. I won't. If I hear a couple arguing at a cocktail party, for example, and one is being mean to the other, and the person who is being mean comes up to me with a checkbook with $1 billion in it and says, Tom, I know you do X, Y, and Z. Here's a check. I want to become your client. I hope every one of us have the guts to turn him away, turn her away, and say, no, thank you. I'm not interested. There was a time in my life when I was broke. There was a time in my life where I would have taken any opportunity to make a sale. I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm telling you, I'm having more fun right now because all of my clients want the same thing I do, look forward to the same conclusion that I do, believe exactly what I believe, and I could invite every single one of them to the same cocktail party. As it stands right now, because of the way that we've been trained in salesmanship 101, if you invited all of your clients to one location, you would have 4 clicks. You would have 4 pockets of people. You'd have the amiables, the analytics, the expressives, and the drivers. They get along. But the analytics don't understand how the amiables exist. And the drivers look at amiables and go, I'd shoot you. And you think about, well, you've been taught to change the color of your coat so that you could have a conversation so you could talk to these people. Oh, my God. I cannot tell you the freedom that I have over the last probably 10 to 15 years, where I begin my conversation with, this is what I believe. This is why I believe what I believe. This is to whom I wish to share my belief. And this is the benefit that people who believe what I believe get from the relationship with me. Do you believe as I do? Now, if I can go through life with that congruent message with everyone that I meet, you will have a group of clients that know exactly what you do. They know your belief. They will refer you to the end of the earth because you've solved problems for them. You haven't sold them a product. For those people who are on the call that have difficulty easier than you think, when I ask those people who have difficulty getting a referral, I'll say, what do you do for a living? And it is horrible. It is all over the map. It's talking about nouns. It's talking about things that you do for clients. And it's talking about selling life insurance. It's talking about doing financial planning. It's talking about gathering data and putting data in a computer. But most of us don't have a clue how to answer what is it that we do. So here's what you've been doing. You've just sold a client X, Y, or Z. And now you're going to go to that client and say, look, I get paid 2 ways. I get paid by you buying the commission of this product. And then I also get paid by you giving me the names of 10 people you don't like. You know, the ones in the back of the Christmas card list. What I do for a living, I can't quantify in language so that it's easy to understand what I do. You bought X from me. Do you know someone else that needs to buy that same thing. Presentation in the breakaway league, when someone's eyeballs fall out of their head and they go, oh my God, I didn't even know you could do this. That's when you ask for a referral, and you ask it in this fashion. Pretty exciting, isn't it? Do you know anybody else that needs to hear what you just found? They don't even know where they're going, but they know that the language we use, the processes that we teach, the impact that we have on people, they're going, this is fascinating. Yes, it is. And it's 100% legal. Who else do you know needs to hear this? Now compare that to the end of the presentation. They want you away from them. They don't even really totally understand why they did it. Sometimes they just want you out of their house. What do you want? The names of people? I don't know anybody that needs to buy life insurance. I don't know anybody that needs to buy that IRA that I just bought from you. I don't know anybody that needs to buy a fixed indexed annuity. I don't know. I don't have any referrals for you. Let me tell you what an advocate is. I define an advocate as someone who will speak on your behalf 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, unsolicited by you. And here's how you know you have one. You're talking to one of your advocates and someone walks up to you and says, what do you do for a living? And your advocate will answer. Now listen carefully, people. Your advocate will eloquently explain why you do what you do better than you can. They know your successes. They know the impact that you've had on their lives, and they're so proud of what you've done. They will go to the end of the earth to make sure you are in front of everyone. And you're sitting there going, I don't even know what the hell I do for a living. I can't, it's to me. Because most people, when they're asked, what do you do for a living? They panic. We had people in our group who told me when they went to a party, they specifically made sure they didn't get into a conversation about employment. They didn't know how to answer the question. So it's easier to ignore it. Well, I'm the buyer here now, people. I don't want to ignore it. I want to promote it. And I'm going to find out through conversation with you if I like you. See, that's first. I don't want to take a client I don't like. I don't want to take a client I can't trust. I don't want to take a client that has no relationship to what I believe. I got out of the proving business, chasing business, spreadsheeting business. I don't do that anymore. This is what I believe, why I believe it, to whom I wish to share the benefit they get. Do you believe like me? And if you do, we'll have an absolute wonderful relationship for the rest of our lives. But if you don't believe as I do, please go somewhere else. You know, I get challenged a lot about IUL. IUL, I believe, cannot work well on the distribution side. It's a beautiful product and has a wonderful place. But on the distribution side, I find it problematic. So if you want to buy an IUL from me and you are hell-bent on the distribution phase of your life, I'm going to refer you to somebody else. I don't want the business. And I don't care how much you put in. I don't care if you overfund it through the nines. I don't care. I don't want to be responsible for, oops, 2 bad years, sorry. Sequence of returns is more important than the index you bought. Here's one for you. The day you buy the index is more important than the index you bought. I don't want to get into that conversation with people. I really don't. So I just want to go back to the tried and true real easy, because the older you get, if you're not gray haired, the older you get, the one thing you want to mitigate is surprises. Oops, never thought of that. Oops, wasn't planning on that one either. Look, the tortoise and the hare. I remember 1.5 years ago, I was talking to a person out in California who had 6 million in that wonderful product called crypto. And I tried to say, what's your strike price? You got to get some off the table. And they go, what's the strike price? And I said, see, there's your problem. You haven't even acknowledged when you want to get out. Oh, it's going to go to 20 million. It's now worth less than $1 million. I don't want to have conversations. Oops, sorry about that. So this is what I believe. Now, if you believe like me, we're all going to be able to come to the same cocktail party. We're all going to be able to share with each other our stories of success, because we have not anything to worry about. It's happening under our eyes, under our nose, and now we get to enjoy what that means. I'm going to give you my explanation of services, and then I'm going to give you 2 examples of an explanation of services where we had 2 completely diametrically opposed results. Yet in my stage of my career, I'm looking for the no's more than I am the yeses. Because the one thing at my age I cannot replace is time. And the last thing I want to do is spend 6 months chasing someone who will never buy, regardless of the number of spreadsheets and the math that I can prove that this works. So I'm going to give you mine. I have never had more fun in my life than I'm having right now teaching the average American how true wealth works. And I compare that to simply math or chasing rates of returns. On average, we find between $30,000 and $50,000 a year in wealth that's slipping through people's hands that they don't even know because they don't understand interest, fees, or taxes. Now, if I sat down with you just in 10 minutes and found $10,000 of your wealth that you didn't even know you were losing, would you want it back? Now, if the person says no, I found out in 20 seconds, I don't want them as a client. I'm not going to chase them. I'm not going to give them proof. There's 13,000 books at Amazon written about the power of cash value life insurance. Go read 11,261, do a book report for me, and call me back in 6 months. I don't need to call you back. There's 350 million people in this country. How many of those people do you think would want to learn a strategy where they could legally stop filing tax returns if they understood how wealth worked? 200, maybe 300? I don't need a lot of these. I really don't. And there's a lot of people that would love to hear our message. So in the Breakaway League, what we try to do is help you understand our job is not to go out and sell life insurance. Our job is to go out and find people who believe like we do. And the problem is most of us don't have a belief. I want you to mentally picture an old-fashioned wagon wheel, that big wooden knuckle that's connected to the axle. That's the hub. That conversation. Why you do what you do, but very few of us can actually go back and find a singular, granular, visceral belief. I've system is broken. I have a much better way, and I can prove it. Now, every other conversation I have is going to be built around the fact, are you interested in knowing what I know? I've been doing this almost 50 years. I have not found anything in the United States tax code that spends better than cash value life insurance. Nothing in the tax code spends better. Can I accumulate more? Oh my God. Yeah. Look at the idiots with crypto. Yeah, I was getting 1,000% a week. Awesome. Awesome. When did that blow up? And why didn't you get out when it started blowing up? Oh, because it was going to rebound. It was going to go back and it was going to, look, in reality, you have to have people speaking in real terms. We call it the parent tape, the adult tape, or the child tape. The parent tape, you're doing it wrong. The child tape, I'm smarter than you. The adult tape is let's have a conversation. So when you get an objection and someone is telling you, I can do much better, like all the crypto people I was talking to 17, 18 months ago, it's going to go 16,000 times higher than this. Really? That's a parent. I'm smarter than you. I know more than you. Okay. So either I can go back up to the parent level and argue with them, won't make a sale, but I can argue with them, or I can have them come down to the adult level and let's have a real conversation about how wealth works, not your investment, how wealth actually works. And if I can't get them to that position, I'm done with them. I'm done. I refuse to argue. I refuse to prove. Now, there's a difference between sincere curiosity on their part and me just ignoring them. And I've had wonderful conversations where people go, Tom, I've never heard this before. This is fascinating. I'll give you the 6 tax codes that use the word exempt, where distributions cannot be put on a tax return. I'll give those to you if you would like. I'd like to see those, Tom, and tell me a little bit more about how this works. Oh man, I love those people. I'll spend 6 months in their basement every morning having breakfast with them and coffee so that they know exactly what, when, where, why, how. But if they want to challenge me and argue with me, I don't have time for that. I really don't. There's several books. Go read them. See you later. I got to go. I've got to find people who believe what I believe. Because here's what Simon Sinek said in his 18-minute, 4-minute TED Talk about 18-minute, 4-second TED Talk. Start with why. As a salesman, your job isn't to go out and find people to buy your stuff. Your job is to simply go out and find people who believe like you. Again, the problem with our industry, very few of us have a belief of any sound evidence. Yeah, this works pretty good. That works okay too. Stop being everything to everyone. Stop knowing a little bit about a lot. I've never met anybody at the top of the table that built their career knowing a little bit about a lot. Most of the people at that level were doing a lot about a very little. We know a lot about a very small percentage of everything that the financial industry can do. And all of them, again, follow a process. So I'm going to go over the 3 parts of the explanation of services, and then I'll go over the 3 scenarios where you use them. The first part of an explanation of services is a statement of fact, some passion point, as I call it. Now, I have a course online. It's normally $397. It's the explanation of services. You get a workbook, and you can take it at your leisure. But right now, for the next 30 days, if you want to sign up for it, it's half off. But I'm going to give you some of the points to it. But if you really want to spend some time and get a pay raise, then you can do this online training. We talk about passion points. If I were to ask somebody to stand up in front of the room and face me, because I've got my back to the audience and I'm looking directly at the person by himself and he's looking at my eyeballs, and behind him or behind me are all of his peers. If I'm going to ask him about what he does for a living, trust me, he will panic. He or she will panic. And they'll panic because they don't know how to answer those questions. And they don't know the words. And here's what they're going to do. They're going to make the fatal mistake of either looking to the floor, trying to think what I should say, or they're going to look to the ceiling, trying to think what I should say. And your first impression is done. You weren't prepared. See, I have every part of my conversation memorized for one purpose. When I already know what I'm going to say, I get the privilege of watching your reaction. Because while I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I should be saying, I'm losing your connect. There's no way I can make or change a positive first impression unless I reach 26 positive touches. And I would argue someone that you have given a negative first impression to is not going to hang around you for 26 opportunities to be touched positively. You have one choice here. And I'm going to memorize it, but I'm going to set it up so that I'm going to show sincere curiosity. I want to know a lot about the person I'm talking with so that I can understand, where are you? Do I even like you? Would I want to work with someone like you? And I've walked away from people after we've had dialogue. Wacko, don't understand why you exist. I don't get it. And I terminate the conversation. It's my conversation. And if I'm not getting the results that I'm looking for, I'm done. But if someone is drawn in by a passionate statement, if we drew a circle around everything that you do in the financial services world, everything from emptying the garbage to filling out the application to delivering a death benefit check, there are certain aspects of your job that you love. All of us have. And then there's certain aspects of our job we don't really care to do. Well, when I was talking to this person who's in the front of the room and they throw up all over themselves because they say the question or answer the question wrong, I will do what your client or prospect will never do. I'm going to stick around and ask you more questions. Now, remember, you came to me totally unprepared, and most people would walk away, but I'm not, because I want to prove a point. So what I do is I start asking the person, why did you say that? What prompted you to use that language? What excites you most when you say that? When you mention that, what benefit does somebody else get from what you believe? And here's what happens as they go through that dialogue with them. They begin to completely ignore the people over my shoulder. They start to talk with me, not at me. And they begin to lean forward and they begin to smile. And in the middle of a sentence, as they're talking about something they're passionate about, I'll take my hands. Stop. That's what you should have led with. So when you talk about something that you do passionately, and you begin with the words, I believe, you're allowing someone to look into your soul. And when they look into your soul, they also need to find out if they like you. But because I've already memorized what I'm going to say, I can watch the body reaction and see, are you turned off? Are you excited? Are you embracing what we're talking about? Are you engaging? Or are you ignoring me? That tells me whether I should stop right after the first statement of fact. The second thing you must do is you must give an example of what you have done for somebody else. Now, can you imagine if in Simon Sinek, when he did the video, Start With Why, he's not the first author that did that we do, but he really started a movement around the world. And it got to the point where he was having people that were talking to him that were saying, you know, I believe like you believe, we should have a why. I don't have one. I don't have one. How do I get one? So he and two of his best friends wrote a book, Find Your Why. And it's really simple. He talks about, I want to, ... so that, ... Now the I want to part is all about you, your vision, your mission, your passion, the legacy you want to have on the world. And the so that part is singular, articulate, and shared in a way that it benefited somebody else. I'm going to be an example of two whys. I want to make a big sale so that I could buy a Rolls Royce. That's a goal. Great goal, but it's not going to let me look into your soul and go, gee, can I help you get there so you can take money from me and you go buy a Rolls Royce? But here's another one. I want to teach the average American how wealth works so that if they implemented what I know, they could retire, not even have to file a return. Now, when I share my why I do what I do, I get to look at the reaction, and I'm either excited by what I see or I'm turned off by what I see. Remember, I'm the buyer. I'm the one who can kill this right now or the one who can promote it so that we can continue later. I own the conversation. Now I'm going to give you two examples of giving my EOS, two completely different examples, completely results, but I consider both to be a success. The first example, I was flying first class from Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale. And I love listening to Yanni. I was about to put my headphones on and zone out. And the gentleman sitting next to me, a well-dressed man in his 40s, looked at me and said, smiled and said, so what do you do for a living? Now, I just written the first edition of the EOS, Explanation of Services, how to answer the question, what do you do for a living? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have some fun here. I'm not recommending you do this. I took my finger, I pointed it at him, and I said, I teach people just like you how you can accumulate as much wealth as you want off the radar screen of the IRS for income tax purposes using the current Internal Revenue Tax Code. And he looked at me and he said, what? And I started laughing. I said, I've never had more fun. I've never had more fun teaching the average American how they can use the tax code for the first time in their life and accumulate as much wealth as they want and not have to show the distributions anywhere on a tax return. And he said, my gosh, will you teach me? Now, I believe to be a person of interest, you need to be scarce. Scarce. I looked at him and I said, no, I will not teach you. He said, you're not going to teach me? I said, sir, please, I mean, no disrespect. My actual clients are other financial advisors. As a matter of fact, I'm flying to Lauderdale to teach 27 financial advisors how to get their wealth, their clients' wealth off the radar screen of the IRS using the tax code. And he said, well, funny you should mention that. I have 7 friends back in Coach. And 4 of them are financial advisors. Would you teach them? I said, heck no. No, I'm not going to teach them. He says, you're not going to teach me. I said, please, sir, I mean, no disrespect. You're not a potential client. Now, today I would have taken him as a client because listen to what he said. I'm not stupid. What came out of his mouth next was brilliant. And I could have had a client. I still wanted to prove something. I did not call Delta and say, Delta, on this day, I'm going to be flying to Lauderdale in seat 4D. Would you please make sure whoever sits in 4C is healthy, wealthy, and wise, and wants to buy vast amounts of life insurance? I wanted to prove a point that having something to say was more important than prospecting. He said, let me tell you what I do for a living. Now, people, again, I knew what was coming out of his mouth. He told me what he does. I looked at him and smiled, and I said, you're rich. And he said, yes, I am. I said, this would be perfect for you. He said, it sounds like it would be, and you're not going to people. I didn't prepare for this. When I ask everyone in our group, how many people did you see last week? They infer that that question really meant how many appointments did you have? And they'll go anywhere from 3 to 15. That's not my question. My question was, how many people did you see last week? Now, pre-COVID, the average person saw 150 people a week. Here's the problem. Most of us have nothing to say to 190 of them. Imagine if you had the skill of starting a conversation, knowing what the end result would be, would your prospecting needs go away? I can engage whenever I want, wherever I want, with whomever I wish at any time. And I compare that to people who say, yeah, I'm spending $50,000 a month on a radio show. I spend $3,000 a month on Google ads. My gosh, if I could just teach you how to talk, your problem's going to go away. Now, over my shoulder is the Professionals Forum. That's an event that I have coming up here in Nashville next month. It's February 15th, 16th, and 17th. I have asked to join me on stage learning the art of communication. These people are, Van Miller makes top of the table by March 1st. In 2 months, he does enough business to equal 10 times what normal insurance people do. He does it in 2 months and then takes 3 months off. Man's a machine, an absolute brilliant machine. And I've told all the speakers, no selling of books, no DVDs, nothing on stage. You're going to come in, you're going to have conversations about how do we present the most wonderful financial tools in the industry so that it can become a want. But I've got Jim Ruda, Tom Hagna, Van Miller, David McKnight, Cody Askins, Turner Thompson, Mary Jo Ehrman, Sandy Chiselle, and me. It's 2.5 days. Wednesday is a VIP ticket where you get to spend some time with the speakers and the sponsors. It's going to be a very small, intimate group. And when I started my business almost 50 years ago, it was Ben Feldman and the John Savages of the world that we never could see. Whenever they went anywhere, they were swarmed by people. Here's an opportunity to rub elbows with some of the industry's best and make it an impact on our lives. As Van Miller said, anybody who wants to succeed in the financial services business that doesn't show up in February will probably fail. I just got to get him to put that in video so I can post that. But the tickets are on sale right now. It's theprofessionalsforum.com, and David's going to put that for us in the chat window. Now, I'm going to give you another example of giving an EOS. That client today would have been, that prospect would have been a client, and probably a pretty darn good one. The next time I'm flying from Nashville to Dallas, we're doing our quarterly meeting. I'm sitting next to a woman who's dressed in the nines. She has a ring on her finger with a diamond, singular diamond, the size of a quarter. She's flying to Tokyo to speak to an international women's organization, and she's the head speaker. I've got an hour and 50-minute flight, no windows to jump through, no doors to run through. I was going to do my explanation of services very slowly and very methodically so that it was a sincere, authentic curiosity in what she does. I don't want to share with you what she does because you Google her and find her. But we had a wonderful conversation. The conversation turned around to Simon Sinek. And I said, my goal in life is to meet him. I want to thank him and shake his hand because since having watched his video in 2013, my income has quadrupled. and I want to personally thank him. She says, well, why do you want to thank him? And I said, because he helped me find my why. And she looked at me and she said, so what is your why? Now, people, again, I'm sitting next to a billionaire. I thought I nailed this. I said, my goal in my life is to teach every American citizen who files an income tax return how true wealth works. And I want to compare that to simply chasing rates of returns, so that if they implemented the information that's in my head and took advantage of what the tax code says, they could retire and not even have to file a tax return. Man, I thought I nailed it. She looked at me within an eighth of a second. It was, what if we don't mind paying taxes? Now, I don't know people like that. I really don't. I don't hang around people like that. I don't understand their thinking for people like that. I don't mind paying my fair share, but I sure as heck don't want to voluntarily pay more. And I've been audited enough. Every auditor has told me, you don't have to pay anymore, but you do have to pay what you owe. I don't mind doing that, but it frustrates me to see where some of this money goes, because none of it is going to come back to benefit me. None of it. So I write these hundreds of thousands of dollars of checks every year, and I say goodbye to it. So I looked at her and I said, we're not a good fit. Now, here's what I would have done 5 years before that. I would have found her mailing address. I would have sent her a box of chocolates, a leather-bound, not pleather, a leather-bound binder with every financial tool I could represent, hoping, keyword here, hoping to do some business. Because after all, she could write a check for everything I could sell. And as she was leaving the plane, she was putting her coat on and she looked at me and she said, so what do you think about Dave Ramsey? And I looked at her and smiled and I said, the funny thing about that, I don't think about him at all. When do you want to know that you are working with someone who will never, ever buy from you, no matter what? 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years. Remember, the people who will normally file a complaint against you will do so because you somehow strong-arm them to buy something they don't want, don't need, or can't afford. Or you gave them some advice that was questionable. Look, I do my best to turn people away. This may not be for you, but here's the interesting part. The tax code says you can. You're healthy, you can. Why aren't you? Why aren't you? Rather than make this on my shoulders, that I should be pushing this into you, look, you can. Why aren't you? Well, life insurance can't be this good, because if it was this good, my accountant would have told me. No, your accountant is the one that got you into the problem in the first place. Building an account, you don't know what you owe. You know, the radio guy here in Nashville talks about that. Be debt-free when you retire. Yet your largest account is in an account you don't even know the amount of debt you owe. I'm just waiting for the lawsuits. Debt-free? There's no such thing as being debt-free. If you have $1 in a qualified retirement plan, that you have debt. You already have it. And you were the idiot who tried to pay your house off, which was a deduction, so that you could contribute to a 401k, which was a postponement. Now, if you think that that is financial freedom, I don't want you as a client anyway. And if you're sincere to learn the rules of the game so that you can play it more efficiently, I will spend the rest of my life working with you to help you understand. If you're going to tell me that you know the best way to do it is to build an account you don't know what you owe, where every single one of us on this call is accepting the fact taxes are going to have to go up. So whatever it was I saved, I'm going to owe back, and not only the interest on it, but an increased percentage. So let me go again. I believe the financial system, the financial services business is broken. I have a much better way, and I can prove it works better. Now, the real question is, do you care? I mean, I can get you out of financial hell. I can get you out of financial jail. But if you're not going to be open to learn what you can do, I'm not going to waste my time telling you what you could do. Okay? Three settings now for an explanation of services. One is a formal setting, one is a social setting, and one is a referral setting. In the formal setting, I don't know who I'm talking to. We don't have enough time for me to show authentic curiosity. I'm talking to somebody who basically is telling me everything they want me to hear, but I don't know anything about them, their family. And I will simply, when asked, what do you do for a living? I'll give you my statement of fact, and then I will excuse myself. Now, if the person is concerned anything more about me, that person will go around asking, well, tell me more about Tom. This is a great example. If the majority of the people in the room with you are already your clients or know you pretty well, this is a great opportunity with class to walk away and let someone else talk on your behalf. Excuse me, I'm going to go get a drink. Then everyone else can talk about you. In a formal setting, I don't know if I want to do business with this person. In a social setting, and I have identified someone that I would like to work with, and I do show authentic curiosity, and I do want to know a lot about this person so that I can explore what, where, when, how, why. And it gets back to me, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm going to go through an eloquent explanation of services. I'm going to go statement of fact, example of what I've done, and then question, can we do business as well? If I could do exactly the same thing for you as I have done for $1,600,000,000 of my clients' money, where none of it is subject to political influence, none of it is subject to stock market risk, every dime is guaranteed to be worth more every month, and none of it will show up on an income tax return. If I could do the same thing for you, would you hire me? And if the answer is yes, great. I'll call you next week. Give me your phone number. Now, the third is a referral setting. And this one is complicated. This one is going to take time. This is what prompted me to write the book, Turning a Client into an Advocate is Easier Than You Think. David, if you want to put that link up into in Kindle, it is available in Kindle and at Amazon. I don't think it's Kindle though. I don't know. Maybe it is. I
have a Kindle version.
Oh, you do? Okay. In the referral setting, you really need to do some homework. You need to find out what your ideal client would look like. What do you want that ideal client to look like? I use the example, if I want a clientele of one-eyed pharmacists with one leg practicing east of the Mississippi, and I'm able to keep that dialogue for 3 years. This is what I'm looking for. Well, in 36 months, every client that you have is going to see out of one eye, use one leg, hop around a pharmacy, probably live on the East Coast. Because I was specific in what I was looking for. This is the time when you really get to let your mind go. If you had your drug other but females, I want nothing but, here's the privilege you get to play. You put your list together, what you're looking for, and then you're going to call your best clients and you're going to say, look, I want your advice. I'm trying to get better. I'm building my professionalism within myself. I need your help. I need your advice. And you start the conversations by these wonderful words. I'm sorry. Now, for all the alpha males and females we have in the group, we're not going to say that very often, but I will tell you right now, this is your fault. Your clients don't know who you are, and they only know you based on your last transaction. And I can prove it. I was reviewing a client 6 months after I had sold an IRA, and I was at the client's house, and on their kitchen table was a State Farm policy dated 6 months ago. I was at John Hancock at the time. I looked at the policy and I said, Steve, you just bought this. He goes, yeah, why? Do you sell life insurance? I go, Steve, John Hancock, the second most recognized logo in the world. Yes, I sell. Well, all I did was buy an annuity. All I did was buy an IRA. All I did was buy a whatever. Whatever the last transaction was is in their head that's all you do. I doubt anyone on the call has actually sat down with their client and said, this is the ultimate client that I'm looking for. This is where I want to be when I grow up. This is the benefit that you have been getting from me, and I want to help more people get that benefit, just like the one you have. This is what I'm looking for. I doubt any of us have had that conversation. So we really could blow this if we do it wrong. There is absolutely no selling of any kind in a referral setting, none. But I wouldn't be surprised if your client says, well, I didn't know you did all of that stuff. I need to buy that. And if you take them up on that, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Don't do it. Say, great, I'll get back to you next week. Look, I'm here because I need your help. And buying something for me, yes, that's going to help me, but that's not the help I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. And I'm sorry I haven't been able to be better for you, because there's something called Pareto principle. Maybe you've heard of it. Mostly known as the 80-20 rule. Unfortunately, I'm spending 80% of my time trying to find people who are 20% like you. But I'm wasting my time. I would rather spend 80% of my time with you. And I can't, because I'm trying to find people like you. Here's what I'm looking for. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can you help me? Don't be surprised if you hear this. I didn't know that's what you were looking for. I can give you 10 names right now. Now, if you turn that into a selling opportunity and you fill out an application, you're cheap. You are cheapening yourself. Don't. I think the classiest thing we could do is, we know a sale is imminent, but postpone it. There's no urgency here. There really isn't. I mean, if it's life insurance that we're talking about, the urgency is uninsurability. I get that. That can happen in a heartbeat. I get that. But I'm not going to pounce on people like I used to. If I could sniff a buying signal, I was all over you. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to visually put my arm around the person I'm talking to, and I want to walk them to their success. I want to be their partner in their success. I don't want to be across the table from them, selling them something and then having them go away. When you have someone you've wrapped your arm around and you've helped them solve problems, you are referable daily. If I sell something, a product they don't want, they don't need, can't afford, or don't understand, they're not going to refer you well at all. Here's my dead brother-in-law. Call him. Oh, I'm sorry. His phone's disconnected. Okay. All right. I've been speaking for 47 wonderful minutes. This is time to fire up your webcams and ask a bunch of questions. Any questions? Nothing? Come on, people. Then I'm going to ask some questions. If you would be so kind as to turn your camera on so I know what students I have in class. There's several people here that have heard me before. Terrence, did you hear anything new?
I think the first plane story was new, not the diamond ring lady, but the first one. And I didn't know you wrote 2 books, Turning Clients into Prospects. I didn't know about that book.
It's a short read. And it talks about how to build the questionnaire so that you go prepared, and you really could blow it. If you do it wrong, you really could scar the relationship that you have with your best clients.
Okay, there was one more thing. I think you mentioned the political influence, stock market risk. I hadn't heard you talk about political influence before.
Yeah, there's I have $1.6 billion of clients' money that's not subject to political influence. I could care less who's in Washington.
Right. I
don't care what the Senate or Congress wants to do, because actually the Democrats like life insurance more than Republicans anyway. And it's guaranteed to be worth more every month because I use whole life, not anything else. Right. And it's not subject to stock market losses because I don't buy any of the indexes. And none of it's going to show up on a federal income tax return. Now, some people will, some people won't. So what? My job is to tell you what I do and why I do it and share passionately. So words matter, but the right words matter more. But the biggest impact are the right words shared passionately. And if we use the right words and we just sound in a monotone voice because I'm so brilliant, I can get all of your wealth off the radar screen of the IRS for income tax purposes. Aren't you glad you know me? There won't be any response.
Right.
One thing I cannot teach supposedly is passion, but yet I'm telling you, I think I can. We're working on a training program right now called the Curve, and it's really nothing more than this part here. It's written upside down and backwards. Understanding the growth of success, where most people fail is what we identify as the first tier. It's purpose, drive, and product knowledge. And most agents, because they can't figure out why they do what they do, they have no passion, they don't have a belief, they have very little why. So their drive is horrible because they don't know what they're doing and they don't want to be rejected. So we're now, I believe, able to teach passion and drive, because we will go back and dissect why you were so excited about what you do. So when I talk about those 4 things that are impacting my clients, all of them are built on because of what I believe. Again, I believe the financial system is broken. I have a much better way and I can prove it. And it's the results kind of speak for themselves. Robert Walker, can you fire up your webcam?
And by the way, Tom, you promised a coupon for the explanation of services course.
Thank you. It's TBL 2023.
Okay. And I'm curious. If this is Bob Walker out of Westlake Village.
That's why I was asking.
Yes, it is. Hey, David, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing all right, Bob Walker. Long time no see. Literally.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to make sure. Mr. Walker,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm all sweaty. I was on the treadmill listening to you, so I'm not going to put the webcam on.
Come on, you're showing work.
I wake up at earlier than 6 o'clock on Monday mornings to be on some of these meetings. So there you go, Bob. Okay.
There it is. All right. How you doing, Tom?
One of the most successful mass mutual agents, general agents in the world.
Thanks, buddy.
Right.
As always, I love listening to you. As Terrence mentioned, yeah, a couple of new nuances to the language, but I always love hearing your explanation of services, giving you got a little tweak every now and then. So would you mind please giving it again as you
Sure.
did at the beginning? Thanks, bud.
Sure. I've never had more fun than I'm having right now, teaching the average American how wealth works, true wealth works, comparing that to chasing rates of returns or math. On average, we find between 30 and 50 grand every year that the average family loses because they don't understand wealth, which is interest, fees, or taxes. Now, if I sat down with you in 10 minutes and found just $10,000 that was slipping through your hands, would you want it back?
Perfect. Love it. Love it.
Now, what's really neat, that's the belief really of the Breakaway League, because we use life insurance as a distribution vehicle. We use it not only as an accumulation, but as a distribution vehicle. And again, I haven't found anything in the tax code that lets wealth spend better than crappy trash value life insurance. And we can call it all kinds of stupid names, but again, and there are times when I'll meet with someone, I'll have an appointment with a termite, as I call them. And I can tell by the questionnaire, they hate whole life. They're Dave Ramsey students. They've been taught to hate everything. They've been taught to hate debt. And they are very vocal that they only own term. So I'll draw a circle on a sheet of paper and I'll go, how much of this circle, if this were a pie, draw for me a size of a pie slice you want to give the IRS every month of your retirement. And they go, I don't want to write a pie slice. I don't want any of it to go to the government. And I just fold up my briefcase and I go, we're done. They go, what are you talking about? You love what it does. You hate what it's called. And I call that stupidity. You are forming an opinion because of its name, not because of what it can do. The thing that you don't like, the thing that those people who don't understand insurance espouse, horrible rate of return. Yes, it is. Try and spend that. You know, the calculation that we do about one of the richest men in the country who bought $1,200,000 a month in life insurance premiums. When we did the math for him, he would have to do 26% a year for the next 10 years to build an account that will spend as efficiently as having 1/4 the amount of money in that trash value product. Now remember, I believe the financial system is broken. I also believe I have a much better way, and I can prove it. I'll give you the calculator. You can do the math. I've already done it. And I've been doing this for 17 years. Been in the business almost 50. And I'll give you the calculator. If you can show me anything you're doing that's better in spending wealth, I'll give you all my money. And I was arguing with all these kryptons in the last 17, 18 months. And it's up 1,000% this year. It's going to go to 1 trillion. Really? Really? And if that's your belief, here's my business card. I may not take your call, but when you find out what you're doing isn't going to work, I hope you realize there was a better way. But I've got to leave now because I have to go find people who believe as I do. It's literally that simple. Bob Gardner, how about you? Welcome back. Anything you learned today? John Hart, good seeing you again.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I did. It's been a good refresher. I've been sort of out sick for a while, so it's good to hear you. Some of the stuff I did recognize, but you know, if you don't, it's like anything else. If you don't practice, you lose it.
True. Yep. And the beauty of the professionals forum is that no one's selling software that's going to hang on a shelf and rot. I mean, as Tom Hagna has said, there will be people in the break during the speakers at the professionals forum that can go out and make a sale.
Yeah, I hope I can get over that. I think I told you, I met you over in Franklin. My daughter lives there, so hopefully health will allow me to get over to see you. This has been good. It's been good catching up and hearing you again.
Good. Want to comment?
Oh, Tom, can you guys hear me?
Good. I can.
Yeah, like Robert or Bob said, it's a good refresher. I've known about you for a long time. I've attended some of your in-person seminars 10, 15 years ago. But you know what? I also learned this in the many years I've been in the business is that, you know, you gain the right knowing how to communicate. And you talked about that today to clients. And I'm trying to perfect those things that work similar to what you're talking about. But I've also found out that if people don't trust you, I don't care how smart they are, how wealthy they are, whatever, they're not going to do any business no matter what. So there's got to be a trust, and trust comes from confidence in clients that you want to deal with. And once that trust is, then yeah, you can communicate, you know, not as good or maybe as accurate as you do or whatever. But if they don't trust you with their financial future, then it's an uphill battle.
My question is, why do we even have the battle? Look, we know really early in the conversation if we're not being trusted. And you can imagine, I've probably been called everything under the sun. And usually the most common one, as Kinder starts to laugh, is arrogant. I get that. And there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And people who don't understand confidence, I don't want them as a client anyway. You know, I go back to the 350 million people in this country. Why are we picking on one person to try to change their mind? It's not going to work. Let's rethink why we do this. I want to go out and attract people who believe what I believe, not those that I am smart enough or conniving enough to convince they should. Oh my God, those are the complaints. Those are the people that don't like you in the first place, that are just waiting for the opportunity to jump on you and say, see, I told you this wasn't right. Look, I don't make a suggestion. I don't give you recommendations. This is what's going to, now I don't, if you can see with this fake background, here's where you are. Here's what's going to happen. You're building an account and you don't even know what you're going to owe. Yet if I were to ask you, do you want to make more each year you're in business? Do you want to stay successful on the day that you retire? Do you think tax rates are going up? If you say yes to those three, you're in the lowest tax bracket of the rest of your life today. Why are you deferring a dime? So if I can help you understand what you're doing is not going to provide what you want. Aha, I've identified a problem. And if you don't see the problem, I don't have anything to sell. Miss Billionaire, you're going to have a problem. You're going to pay excess taxes all of your life. I don't care. What if we don't mind paying them? I don't have anything to offer you, sweetheart. I don't. See you later. Bye-bye. Here's an alternative. You put into this strategy and you can retire and not have to show any of the distributions because it's collateral. It's not income. And you're going to only have to file a tax return. Which one do you want? And quite frankly, I don't give a crap. Pay taxes at an unknown rate for the rest of your life and giving back Social Security, good for you. Wonderful. That works. So you think. Here's an alternative. We're going to build an account. You don't know what you're going to, or we do know what you're going to owe, zero, and you can use it all during your life with no income tax implications. Which choice would you like to travel down? Bob, how about you? Is it vowel or vowel, or did I mispronounce it?
It's a vowel, like not a consonant, vowel.
All right, cool.
Hey, Tom, I've heard your name before, but this is the first time I've had a chance to hear you talk. And I'm really new in the financial industry, and this is kind of like maybe a late in life career change. And what you're saying is very interesting, and I really appreciate the openness, the sincerity of how what you're saying. And it's certainly a new way for me to look at the situation. I feel a little overwhelmed in imagining how I could assimilate everything you told me and actually put it into use. It would be the normal approach of selling life insurance. So I feel very to try to better, to assimilate what you said and actually put it into use. But I'm just wondering how I'm going to do that.
Yeah. So this curve, as we call it, is been very eye-opening to me. We started on October 7th, and my life has changed from October 7th. And it's changed because for the first time in my life that I can now identify why people that have gone through the Breakaway League, which are several hundred, why some succeeded. And more important, I can identify why the failure was so high on some. The finding, Bob, is what you're excited about by listening to me is the way I communicate, the way that the message that I have, the words that I use, which have been very, very methodically thought out. There isn't a word that I use that I don't already know the impact it's going to have with someone. So as a result of that, most of the people that come to the Breakaway League are attracted to the way we communicate, the message we have. And Bob, we had a gentleman that carried around an iPad with a note-taking app on it, and he would stick it under everybody's nose who was speaking, because his attitude was, if I could memorize what Tom says, I can be as successful as Tom. He quit. And he quit because not only did he not go out and use my language, he was paranoid because he said, I don't feel the passion that Tom has. Great words, I just don't get it. My solution was to give you another bomb, to give you another power phrase, to give you another sales idea that shared my passion, that proved my point, while you're still confused about how in the hell does this thing even work? I get it now. This is the most prized possession of anybody in the Breakaway League. It's an hourglass. And I use the hourglass because the grains of sand at the top are the stuff that you heard me talk about today. The words, the questions, the statements, the passion are really nothing more than these grains of sand. And what's fascinating about an hourglass, for it to work efficiently, none of these grains of sand can be any larger than another, or it would clog that narrow part. The narrow part is called a vortice. This is where you get to add you. This is your value proposition to these grains of sand, these ideas, so that as they hit the bottom of the hourglass, those statements are now yours. They're not mine. They're not a regurgitation of my words, because you cannot regurgitate my passion. You cannot emulate why I believe what I believe. So what we have done now is we've identified, I can help you with drive and purpose. And it all begins with, what do you believe? So now we are offering a course, it's not done yet, but we're going to be offering a course on climbing the curve. And the first three, which are really nothing more than purpose, drive, and product knowledge, is where most financial advisors are miserable. They hear someone like me talk and they go, oh my God, I want to be just like him. Van gets the same thing wherever he goes. I just want to learn Van's questions. Well, you can learn Van's questions and make a good living. You're not going to make top of the table in 4 days like Van, because Van's passion is different than yours. So if I could help you understand what you really should be passionate about, drive does not need to be taught. You'll do it on your own. Passion doesn't need to be taught. I'll help you build your own. That's what the Breakaway League does. So we are not unique in how we use cash value life insurance. What we do is not unique. How we do it, I think Kinder will tell you. There's no one that does what we do. Nobody. But they'll use products and they'll get the same result, but nobody has the same belief that we do. And it's because nobody asks it. Look, when I go around the country and I ask questions, who believes that life insurance is the most wonderful financial product in the world? Not many people raise their hand. They'll go, well, it's good. My sales manager loves it. He talks about it all the time. But I don't get it. I don't get it. And you probably never will, because our industry does not teach belief. Our industry teaches features and benefits which have nothing to do with what you believe. Look at it this way. I made fun when I was speaking to the Canada Sales Congress in September. I said, look at the way insurance companies work. They have a marketing department made up of 20-year-olds that have just graduated college, but understand blues and greens go really well together, and you don't throw in an orange, and they know the color palette beyond belief. And they'll put together these wonderful, beautiful pictures. And then they'll send the pictures with some text, because they never sold anything. They'll send it to the legal department, who says, you can't say that. You got to change this word and use these words when you speak. And then they give you a rate book and say, go out and be unique. We all look alike, sound alike, talk alike, dress alike, drive the same car, represent the same product. And then we wonder why we all stink and we never truly excel in success, is because those first three levels are confrontational. I get you past those first three levels. I call it a tipping point. Now it's accountability, it's communication, and it's uniqueness. And what drives people to people like Van Miller or me is because of the way we communicate and the way we are unique. Wonderful, wonderful. You want to get there? Follow the basic, the beginning. You get the belief and passion down, and you can be just like all of us. And in that center tier, I call it those accountability, the communication, and the uniqueness, success. And here's where most of the people in the financial services world live. You define success, whether it's 100,000 or 100 million, I don't care. You find success when money is no longer an issue, your bills are being paid, and you're a happy camper. But then there's another tipping point. And very few people will accept this tipping point challenge. You want to be like Van Miller, make top of the table in 3 days? Man, you got to change what you're doing. And it's not reinventing yourself. It's these little 1-degree changes on everything you've ever learned. And once you can be honest with yourself about being specific about the things you need to focus on, you too can achieve ultra success. The beauty of the curve, you can be as high as you want or stay in misery if you'd like. And I am so excited about this because it's the first time in my life that I could look at people who are struggling and stop throwing them an ornament on a Christmas tree and start talking about the tree. If you think about it, sales material, sales language are ornaments. Make the tree look pretty. No one's talking about that tree trunk. I am. And the tree trunk is the definition of success. It's not another ornament. And you need a bunch of grains of sand in that hourglass. I get it. But if you don't understand that narrow part of the vortice and where your passion and drive come from, God, this is a frustrating career choice. Open a Taco Bell. You'll have a much better life. This is frustrating. Hopefully that helped, Bob.
No, it's very well said. I can see, I've never had a very high opinion of life insurance my whole life. I just never thought it was important. And I can see now that that was a mistake on my part. There is excellent logic for why a family, a homeowner should have life insurance. So I've had to make a conversion just in terms of seeing value in this product that we're all talking about. And from a logical standpoint, I have made that conversion. But what I'm struggling with is being comfortable in approaching people and talking to people on this topic. And what I see in your presentation today is that you're very comfortable in your own skin. I'm trying to get to that point. And so it's having a better understanding of exactly what you're talking about today. You know, what do I believe and why do I believe that? And can I be comfortable in presenting that to other people? And if they aren't responding the way I want them to, can I just say, as you mentioned, well, thank you for your time and move on, as opposed to trying to say, well, I have to make a success out of every encounter I have because I frankly don't have that many encounters. So this is a whole lot for me to think about here based on what you said to me today. And
well, let me help you. Let me help you with this, Bob. When I've been doing this again almost 50 years, and I've never really considered myself a coach. I was more of a successful salesperson, and I got the nickname of a big case writer. Last night we filled out apps for $240,000 of premium, and that's not an average case. That's obviously above average case, and it came from someone you never would have thought had that kind of money. And again, it's because of the way that we teach the strategy. I'm sharing this with you because someone who has been in the business for 30 years and wants to join the breakaway league is more of a pain in the ass to me than someone who has not been polluted, trained wrong, given all the wrong things to say. So actually I'm having, and this guy is brand new in the business. He's a preacher. And it was just one of the congregation families. It wasn't the wealthiest person sitting in the front pew. And when you really understand how wealth works, with the new person, I don't have a lot of things to fix. I would much rather have a new person, not necessarily new in age. I'd like to have more maturity because 21-year-olds think long-term is Saturday. And they don't really get the idea of, eventually you're going to be my age and then you're going to ask, just like you said, I wish I could have known this a long time ago. Well, if David, put up the Breakaway League link if you want to. Jump on the Breakaway League link and see if just kind of fart around there for a little bit. And if that is of interest to you, give me a call, or there's an info button on there to get a hold of me. But again, I am, no one is too small and no one is too big. We got a guy in the group now that we're teaching the curve. He sold his first $1 million premium last month. And now he wants to commit to doing $1 million of premium a month. That's a Van Miller kind of comment. And that is that second tipping point where very, very, very few people, that's a 30,000 altitude. There's no air up there. You're kind of on oxygen when you're up that high. And he's going right back to the basics. He's not leaving the first tier even.
Yeah.
So he says, I want to know everything about why, belief, and passion before I go. Because we had lunch when I first started doing this. And he said, Tom, I have you on a scale of 1 to 10 for conviction, you're a 14. How do I get that? I said, well, it's simple now. With the curve, I can help you with that. And now he actually took my advice, took his calculator, gave it to the doctor. And he said, okay, run the math, use your own hands, your own fingers. Here's the tax rate. Here's how much you'd have to have. Here's the distribution. And you would need 41 million to do what 17 million is going to do in cash value. Now, this man had $220 million of insurance in force already with some of the best names in the insurance industry. And he goes, write the app. I'll give you $1 million a year. That whole appointment took less than 30 minutes.
Mhm.
It's possible.
I think early on, you get really frustrated and just think like, you're trying to convince somebody and they still will be like, oh yeah, but I think what I'm doing is working fine. And then it gets to this point like, then you're
Tom,
just,
I'm pretty sure he's talking about the infinite circle of leap stones.
Exactly. Yeah.
truth concepts.
Okay.
Truth
Good
concepts.
calculator though. But
Yeah. And well, I thought it was amazing because it showed the numbers right in front of somebody, especially when my brother-in-law is an engineer and he loves numbers. I'm showing him the numbers and still. And then to me, it's like, well, you're an idiot. Like, I don't understand. Like, and I get to that space for like, just dealing with idiots. If the numbers is telling you this, why am I still trying to convince you? It's like, what else do I need to do if it's just math? So the whole ideal of like understanding that not everybody believes what you believe, and just to move on before you spend, like, again, my brother-in-law every week meeting with him, going over his personal numbers. He's a do-it-yourselfer, and it's just not worth my time, right? I mean, that's one of the things that's really interesting to me.
No, I have two Bentleys, and I love using this comment. If you don't understand what I do, that's great. Let's go play golf, but don't ever again ask me how I bought my Bentley. It wouldn't make sense to you. Now, it was a difficult task to separate business and personal. I mean, that's a huge maturing growth, if you will, because I took everything personally. If you didn't like me, I took offense. I tried to appease everybody. So when you're dealing with someone, especially a family member, who cannot mimic your passion, doesn't get what you're doing, looked at the math, realized it, might have some, but he won't admit it. Stop pushing it. The best thing you could do is just go be successful. Talk to other people who do get it. Eventually they'll come around if you want them again. See, I've got people that have been, what you're doing, it doesn't make any sense. And then after a couple of years, they go, you know what, maybe this, I don't want them. No, stupid, arrogant, dumb. Yeah, I get it. I want clients. The most fun I get when I talk to somebody is watching their mind blow up. Just go nuts, because no one's ever said this before. Well, there's a reason. Look, if I'm a fee-based financial planner, I get paid different. We structure our fees so that when you do better, I do better, right? And when you do better, there's no incentive for me to teach you how to spend your money. As a matter of fact, I'm going to convince you that just let it grow bigger and bigger and bigger, so my income is bigger, not yours. You lose 37% because NASDAQ dropped 37% last year. That's okay. My checks were positive. Yours were negative, but mine were positive. And look, you got to expect this every 7 to 10 years. You got to lose 30 to 60% of your portfolio to get the average rate of return. That's how we've been taught to talk to people. Look, I got $1.6 billion that ain't subject to the stock market and guaranteed to be worth more, and none of it's going to be subject to an income tax.
And they get so stuck on the rate of return, right? And like you say, or tying it to an index, it'll come back, especially if they're young, right?
Sure.
And
sure.
so it's really hard to combat that.
But Ricardo, if I could show you how for the next 10 years, you won't even break even. It'll spend more than you earning 10% in an IRA every year, putting in the exact same amount of money. It'll spend more than you earning 10. Would you give me 20 minutes? See, I already know this math. I've spent hours learning this. You've never seen it because you're arrogant and thinking 10 is better than 0. But if I could prove to you earning nothing, not even getting back what I put in, is going to spend better than you getting 10% a year for the next 10 years. And if I'm right, will you finally believe me? Will you take action? And if they say no, then I'm not going to tell you how it works. Because no matter if I prove it or not, life insurance cannot be this good. We need people like that. We need people like that so they can write extra checks to the government to fix the potholes. I'm not one of them. You can, but I'm not going to be one of them.
For those numbers to work out, their marginal tax is probably pretty high, right? For the numbers to
Nope.
work out, where zero.
Nope.
Okay.
I think it's what
So I could give the quick example of my own parents who are in the 12% tax bracket, and I helped them do their retirement plan a couple of years ago. They would need to earn 11.5% each and every year for 10 years to beat what I'm doing using life insurance. And I did all that math.
Well, that math, I guess, that's part of, what's going to make you successful is knowing how to do that math, because that does hard for me to wrap my head around if I'm getting 4 to 6% accumulating in the whole life and not paying any tax on it.
But wait a minute, Ricardo. I told you in 10 years, you're not going to get 4 to 6%. You're not even going to break even. So if you put in $100,000 a year for 10 years, the cash value is $962,000. You didn't even break even. The guy that puts $100,000 a year into an IRA has $1,500,000. But when you look at the safe withdrawal rate, got to be an adult here, safe withdrawal rate, 3%, and you're in a tax bracket, and you're net spending, because remember, when I pull money out of an IRA, I have a federal tax, a state tax, a local tax, maybe tax on Social Security and Medicare increase in my premium, my advisor fee, and I'm paid 7. Number 7. By the time you get to the net number, or I can take out 6%, 5% from whole life, because I don't have the safe withdrawal rate concerns. The reason why the safe withdrawal rate is so low is because last year was a perfect example. In order to withdraw from last year, the amount of money I took out in 2021, I had to take out more than those number of shares that I took out in 2021. I'm killing the goose that's laying those golden eggs. When I borrow against my life insurance, all of my life insurance is guaranteed to be worth more. All of it. The money that I borrowed from the big insurance company. I didn't touch my account. My account is guaranteed to be worth more, and I get dividends from it. So I've got $1,962,000 earning 4%. Now I'm growing 4%, and I'm taking out 6% of 962,000. That will spend more because my Social Security is free. I qualify for food stamps, government cheese, free cell phones, Obamacare, and I don't even have to file a tax return. Kinder, we're going to be doing a blitz out in California where I'm going to do a video on Google. We're going to pay Google ads for financial advisors that want to learn the strategy in the state of California with this question. If I could teach you how to stay in California and pay no federal tax nor state income tax, you could live in the most beautiful state in the country defined by you and not file tax returns. Would you like to learn the strategy? I'm wondering how many financial advisors we can get in California. Because when you look at the numbers, you're still lost 333,000 people last year. It's a lot of people. Your tax base is eroding. 70% of those were the high income earners. Can't imagine what Gavin wants to do now.
He wants to run for president.
So, and one thing, Tom, that I wrote down here that I wanted to get your opinion on, because I know, believe me, I understand whole life and the certainty behind it and why you have those advocates over IUL. And you said IUL has its place, but not distribution. And I'm assuming because it is tied to an index that you can't make the same types of distributions that you can in a whole life. But maybe. you said that an IUL has its place. And what is its place? What would be the IUL's place?
If I want to buy a death benefit and I want a guaranteed no lapse and I have a structured premium with upside potential, I would buy it for an ILET. I would buy it for longevity, but I wouldn't buy it to spend. I mean, if you truly, there's several times that I've given a presentation on IUL, which was actually a 1979 test question. It wasn't IUL, it was just UL. When I was in college, we learned how universal life worked. We had to do the diagram to pass the course. And when you truly understand that we use limited pay contracts where the premiums stop. There is no mortality, there's no more fees, there's no more administrative expense that is assigned to the client. Client's paid up. There are no additional costs. And I compare that to something where the internal cost and fees are increasing. I can't use the money to pay me. It's got to stay in the account to pay the fees. And I don't ever want to, look, if I had, and I've said this before, if I have 200 clients that bought the XYZ IUL contract with the ABC index, and every business day, I had the client, same age, put in the exact same amount of money and waited 12 months. Not one policy would look alike because of the day I bought the index, the net asset value of the index that I bought on that day. Now, again, it's 365 days. None of them are going to have an annual statement that's the same. And I would hate to have anybody retire in 2022. When I use indexed, you got nothing last year. Nothing. And when I still take the distribution from it, I do have a loss in cash value. So again, on the distributions, again, this is my personal opinion, and personal opinions are like, you know what's, and everybody's got a couple, and it's my opinion. But on the distribution side of how wealth works, I want to borrow against an account that's guaranteed to be worth more every month. Not could be, might be, maybe, depending on, I want it guaranteed. You know, there's 5 ways you could retire and not have to file a tax return. 5. Life insurance is one of them. And it's all based on collateral. So the collateral that I want, I don't want in a margin account. That's one way. That's how Warren Buffett does it. He's worth $1 billion, goes to the Bank of America and says, give me a check for 100 million. Bank of America goes, absolutely, here's the money. His income tax on that was zero. Now he does owe interest on that 100 million. Great. The portfolio pays a dividend, maximum tax of 15% to pay the interest that's due on the 100 million. He's in a 15% tax bracket. I don't fault that. He's using the code. Cool. But you need $1 billion of your own money that's already been taxed. You got that kind of money hanging around? Most don't. Because our financial system says defer, 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 deduct, 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 defer, defer, defer. That's a retirement plan. No, it's not. My favorite quote from my son, you do not need a retirement plan to retire. You need money. Simple. Where your money is, however, is more important than what it earns. Because if I could show you 3 million in life insurance will outspend 5 million in an IRA, can I pique your interest? Can I buy you that cup of coffee? Can I pour this bowl of soup on your head? Wake up, pal. What's fascinating to me, Ricardo, is every single taxpayer has the privilege to develop wealth off the radar screen of the IRS using their own rules. Everyone. Very few know about it because as an advisor, and I was one, I was a fiduciary, Series 6, 63, 65, and 7 for 42 years. And every time somebody came in and tried to sell us a new whatever, it was always gather more assets. That'll make you more money. Your income will go up by the more assets you gather. Your client's not, but yours will. And I'm not against professionally managed accounts. It sounds like it. I'm not. What I'm saying is that if your fee is 1% to manage money, and you're telling someone they can take out 3%, you've got an 85% chance of running out of money. You've exceeded the safe withdrawal rate. Because according to a recent study, if I have an advisor charging 1%, my safe withdrawal rate is 2.1. You can't take out more than 2.1% of your account, or you have an 85% chance of failure. Imagine getting on a flight to Hawaii where the captain goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for boarding United Air Flight 1579. We've got about a 7-hour flight to Hawaii, that beautiful island of Hawaii. We've got an 85% chance of landing this puppy on the runway. Now, we've got a 15% chance of landing in the ocean, but I'm going to give you a little bit of time before we close the cabin doors to see if you want to vacate." How many people do you think are going to get off that airplane? More than 15%. Yet we accept that as, well, every 7 to 10 years, you got to lose 30 to 60% of your portfolio. You have to. Why? Because that's how the averages work. And heaven forbid, if you retired on January 1st of last year, was indexed from last year, you lost anywhere from 6 to 35% of your money. Ouch. Ouch. And if you were an index account, you didn't lose a thing, but your fees, and I love IUL for specific purposes. I just don't like it on the distribution side. Chuck, welcome. You came in late. Are you okay? Chuck's not here.
Yeah,
There
I
he is.
did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's very interesting. I did come in late, and this is the first time I've been involved in hearing you speak. So you got me intrigued. So we're gonna look you up as soon as we get done talking here today.
All right. Well, there's a link here. The breakawayleague.com is the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Connecticut, live down in South Florida right now.
Good for you.
40,
No
43.
income tax.
Yeah. And no other tax either, because I'm like you, except I followed the LEAP format for many years. Got a lot involved in annuities the last probably last 10 years. You know, fixed my goods are going to take over, and there's not enough comp in that, so I'd rather talk about life insurance.
Guaranteed way to be screwed.
It absolutely is, but paid good
Yeah.
cash when the getting was good. So now we had a little ordeal with insurance carriers back in 14, 15. So I decided that, because I'm pretty successful in my career. So I figured, hey, why don't we just do this and play golf? So got my handicap down to 10 from 15 over that period of time. And now I'm kind of bored to death with it, doing seminars now. Actually doing seminars talking about IUL. The gentleman that was talking about IUL, I actually use IUL as a ruler to measure, where these clients can go. And when they come in the office and I show them the expense of IUL, guess what they buy? They buy whole life.
Well, think about this. When there's an illustration that has to be 37 pages long, written by an attorney,
yeah.
Do you think the attorney put language in there to affect you or protect them?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. But yeah, we definitely get back more into the whole life. Obviously, if you followed LEAP at all, it's changed quite a bit since the Castellone days in terms
Yes.
of their software. I'm not a real fan of their software in presentation. I still use a paper model, and that seems to work real well. And yeah, you're right. I don't use illustrations. Illustrations just sign at closing, and that's all I really need them for.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. By law, you have to sign it. Here's one. I guarantee you it won't be this way after 5 years.
Exactly.
I guarantee. Whatever you bought, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's why I try to stay at 10,000 feet and paint with a broad brush, because
Exactly.
the minutia is really irrelevant. What's the rate of return? Doesn't matter. It's good.
No,
Really
doesn't matter. The permission slip that I have, just went through this with a client yesterday, 65 years old, him and his wife. They want to retire at 70. He has $100,000 of cash to his name. He has a house that's worth $800,000, $200,000 of debt on it. And so, we were talking a little bit. He says, well, I'm going to end up having to use my house as a way to pay for my retirement. I said, yeah, if you can retire, but we'll help you get there as best we can. I said, but what's interesting? You said your financial advisor recommended that you might look at a reverse mortgage. Wouldn't it have been nice for you to keep that life insurance in force that you bought years ago that you told me you canceled? Wouldn't it have been nice to have that for a permission slip to be able to go and use that equity and not give a crap about ever paying it back? And your wife and your kids will, have a legacy. He goes, yeah, well, no one's ever told me that. Yeah, well, permission slips are important, man. And that's one of the things that, we do. Talk about the living values of life insurance and permission slip to spend down other assets and all that other kind of stuff. So it's exciting.
Well, we, as I shared, I don't know if you heard this part or not, but what we do is not proprietary because everybody uses cash value either as a safe haven. Your ideology is a permission slip. Wealth building cornerstones is a sort of spinoff on using life insurance in the bad years of the stock market.
Right.
My biggest complaint, because I don't think Bob Castellone would appreciate anything that I do. I use the best product in the world as the solution,
right? Not
to save a bad situation, but as the solution. And I question the people who really do use wealth building cornerstones. If I'm the IRS and I see you with great tax returns one year, none the next, and then a good another taxable year, and then none the next, I will visit you.
Yeah.
I will have a black van and I will survey everything you're saying and doing, because it's just not. And those years that you don't, man, you qualify for food stamps.
Right.
So why wouldn't, if we knew the end game, if we started with the end in mind, most people wouldn't do what they're doing now. And this is why I gave up my registration. I wanted to talk about taxes, and my broker dealer said, you can't. And I said, why? And he said, because you're not an accountant and you're not an attorney. I said, but I pay several $100,000 a year to the IRS, which is why I moved to Tennessee. I was tired of paying Michigan $100,000. And they said, but you can't talk about taxes. I said, well, how do I ever get to the point where I can help people understand as a fiduciary that I am putting you in harm's way? Get rid of your registration. You're no longer a fiduciary, and you can talk about anything you want. I go, here, take them. June of 2019. Done. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Now I can talk with the end in mind. If I know the number one reason why people with money have less in retirement is because of taxes, then let's have that conversation today. If I could show you how the IRS will pay you to use your cash value to go out and buy anything for the purpose of profit, whether it's real estate. I have 29 cars. If you're going to buy an automobile for a collection, I can show you how the government will help you buy it if you use cash value as collateral. Why wouldn't we at least look at how we could do that? No, I'm smart. I like the billionaire with the 300-carat ring on her hand. But what if we don't mind paying taxes? I got to go. You're making me throw up in my mouth.
True.
Yeah. Yeah, so reach out to me if you would, Chuck.
I'll do it.
Sam or Steve, last two people, because everybody else has jumped off here. Anything you guys want to commit to? Because I'm already 40 minutes over. I love doing this, by the way. I don't know if you can tell or not, but
We're still doing real talk at 12 noon Pacific time.
are we?
I've got it scheduled.
I've got real talk at 2 p.m.
Oh, okay, 11 o'clock. Okay, just because I'm off doesn't mean that we're canceled here. So
Is that right though? 2 p.m. is when I'm supposed to be doing it?
I'm figuring it out. Okay.
I kind of hope so, because I'm going to be on again. And also, Chuck, if you want to get to the breakawayleague.com and hit the events tab, you'll be able to see Kinder does a real good job of posting when I'm going to be speaking next, whether it's explanation of services or just talk. We call it talk at the table, which I'm giving back to the industry. I never was able to talk to a guy like Van Miller at a top of the table event, because I never was a top of the table member until recently. And whenever they went, they were bombarded by people. So every so often, I just host an hour where anyone can ask any question they want about any topic, and they get an opinion. That's
Okay.
so,
It says 3 p.m. Eastern time.
which is 2 Central. That's
2
right.
Central. Yeah. So, okay. But with you, I can't always tell. Are we talking Central? Are we talking East?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where am I today? Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So Sam or I'll get the other guy jumped off. All right. Any
Yeah.
question for you, Sam? No. All right. Listen, guys, thanks for your time today. Hope you walked away with something good, and stay in touch. Adios.